Hi, everyone. Thanks, Louis. Thanks, Chad. And thanks, everyone, for coming to the talk. How's everyone feeling? Is everyone good? Yeah. The other day, my friend Rosh, and I'm sure he's in the audience right now, he's very into pop culture. And he was saying how Config is like the design Super Bowl halftime show. And there's all this anticipation, the design community comes together. And if this was a Super Bowl halftime show, it would definitely be J-Lo and Shakira's collaboration from last year. For one, I'm from Barcelona. That's where Shakira currently lives. And the second reason is we're going to be talking about collaboration, how working in teams, similar to how music collaborations do, we can create something much bigger than we could ever do on our own. And with that, here's the first question that we will try to answer together. Should devs design? Do we have any devs in the room? Please let me know in the chat. And how about project managers? If you are a PM yourself, shout out in the chat. And in fact, everyone, including designers, let me know your roles in the chat and what you love most about what you do. So, okay, we mentioned developers, project managers. How about business analysts and data analysts? Should they design? Yes, the answer is yes. Absolutely everyone in your team should design, regardless of their role, their level, or skill set. And let me tell you what I think this is so important. Let me tell you a little story about my team. So I'm Mina. I'm a designer here in London, and I've always worked in cross-functional teams. These teams have been made up of people with very diverse backgrounds and skill sets that have come together with a common goal to develop products, systems, and services to help our users. My teams have been made up of designers and researchers crafting experiences that meet and hopefully exceed our users' expectations. We also have developers that implement these experiences and create the building blocks to support everything running smoothly. And then we have product managers and BAs that make sure we're solving the right problems and we're moving in the right direction. But things are rarely so perfectly aligned as we're seeing on screen, right? Can you think of one thing, just one thing, that would take your team to the next level, from great, because I'm sure your teams are great, to absolutely brilliant? And you can tell me on the chat. It would be really great to read them. I'll be telling you mine in a minute, but maybe as a developer, you know all the technical constraints and often find yourself shooting down ideas. But if you are involved a little bit earlier, you could help make the most of what's possible. Or maybe as a product manager, you might really understand the problem space and have a lot of great ideas, but maybe you struggle with visualizing them. So what is it? What would take your team to the next level? And keep those responses coming in the chat. We can have a conversation there. And as you do that, I can tell you mine. Over the years, I started noticing a pattern in all my teams. And it's that we were all working in our little silos. Designers sitting at the design table, doing all these designy things that we do. Devs coding away in the other end of the room. Actually, years ago, I was in a team where I would only ever see developers once every 2 weeks. And nobody thought that was strange or a huge problem, myself included. But the thing is that it is a big problem. And the actual problem with that is that it inevitably lends itself to handoff culture. A culture where teams are so fragmented that they only work on what's directly in front of them. So designers create designs and gatekeep all relationships with users. Once they're done, they throw the designs over the fence to the developers, who then pick it up and have to code it all on their own, filling in the gaps that the designers have left. And as if that wasn't enough of a nightmare scenario, the average team is wasting more than 7 hours a week due to poor collaboration and communication. And this is 364 hours a year. Just let that sink in. Besides the obvious costs for business and obviously users, crucially, who wants to spend 7 hours of their week every week gatekeeping who can or cannot do that, and in meetings that should have never even been emails in the first place? But I want to hear from you. What is the biggest handoff problem your team faces or has faced in the past? And again, you can tell me in the chat. As you're doing that, as you're telling me all these problems that you may have faced in the past, maybe you have resolved them and you have really good things to share. I've got some of my own. I've got some problems that I have identified and wanted to share. The first one is too many tools, way too many disparate tools. The PMs use 3 separate tools, the developers use another 5, and then the designers have the 4 that we use. And that makes important information very difficult to find. It makes it inaccessible. Most of them have different logins and occasionally some broken links in all these files. We've all been there, right? Next up, too much documentation. And I love a report, I really do, but spending hours creating, updating, and going through documentation can lead to huge misunderstandings. And really, it's time that we're spending away from our users. The next one is a recurring nightmare of mine, and it's endless design reviews, pushing components 1 pixel to the right and then back on 1 pixel to the left because something was missed or not communicated or not documented properly. And as a result of all of this, we are accumulating design debt on all these pixels that will never, ever get pushed, right? And ultimately, and most importantly, really, frustrated users that are not going to get the experiences that they deserve. I love this illustration, by the way, by Pablo Stanley. He's speaking at Config tomorrow, actually. Really recommend you go see them. But it's really the best visual representation of everything that is wrong with handoff culture. And we love blaming each other over this as well. So the devs will say, oh, the designers didn't give us the documentation in time, but then the designers will say, hey, the developers got the wrong shade of blue, when really it's not one person's fault, it's nobody's fault. It's our ways of working that don't work and are failing us, because I really strongly believe that there is no right way to do handoff. And as designers, we have to acknowledge our responsibility in addressing this. Because what if things could be different? What would happen if we broke off from handoff culture? What if we went from this to this? What if we truly embrace collaboration in our teams? We are on the embracing the mess track here, and yes, absolutely, things might get messy at first when you're just figuring out what works, what doesn't work for your team. And it's exactly in this messy space when interesting things will start to happen. Okay, let's look at how now, how your team can start embracing collaboration. First, start small. Think about what you could do today with the time and the resources that you have available now to help you get closer to a more collaborative team. And there are many things you can do. We're going to see a few of them in a minute, but don't wait for that perfect moment when the stars align to do this big perfect thing, because you have everything you need to start small right now. Then the second one is identifying allies in your team. This will be very difficult to do on your own. So who in your current team could help you drive this change? Are there any designers or BAs or devs that you think might be interested and can help you break those silos? Think about it. There really must be someone. And okay, now that you're committed to starting small and finding allies in your team, let me tell you what we did in my team, what worked and what didn't quite work for us. The first thing we did, and this is one of the small things that you could just start doing today, is building empathy with users. By aligning the whole team, and I mean the whole team, in what users need, what their goals and what their struggles are, we can start building a common understanding of our product or whatever it is that we're building together. And we can start understanding the value that each small improvement has in our users' lives. We started by observing user interviews. So members of the team, outside of design and research, started first watching recordings of these user sessions. Then they started attending live sessions. And finally, taking a more active role in these user interviews by doing things like note-taking and even asking questions directly to our users. And as you can see, this was an incremental effort. We started very small and we went along as we felt more comfortable and more safe. Another way that we built empathy with users as a team was running guerrilla user testing. This is something you can do very easily on your current experience, on new designs, or even on new ideas. You can see my team in the picture there, running tests with users when we were in our old studio in pre-pandemic times. And I have added some resources to this talks community file. So you can run your own guerrilla testing sessions with your team. I have also included some ideas and how you can do it remotely as well. So you might use Figma, for instance, to run those sessions. Okay, so some learnings from this experience around building empathy with users. If we were to do this again, as a designer, I would probably spend more time empowering the team. Maybe doing some mock tests before we go out and test on real users. In this way, we're empowering the team, making sure that they feel 100% prepared and know exactly what to expect. But even if those first few sessions were a little bit messy, it was absolutely worth it. Something truly magical started happening here. The team started bringing users into our team's conversations. They started quoting what they've heard during these testing sessions. And we started bonding over this common goal of helping users. The second topic I wanted to focus on today is co-creating the future of our product or our service or whatever it is that we're building. By doing this, we will, as a team, together, take ownership of all aspects of our product and break down those silos. One thing we do a lot of brainstorming or ideation workshops. This is when the team gets together, regardless of their role or their skill, and start ideating solutions for those user problems that we have identified in the previous step that we just discussed during testing. I have also included some resources to run these workshops with your team on this community file that I mentioned, so you've got something to work off. And after we have come up with all those great ideas together, we'll start prototyping them. We'll put them in a format, usually an interactive, clickable mock-up that will make it easier to share with our users for their feedback. And again, we're doing this together. Some tips at this stage. Not everyone on your team will be used to sketching or drawing, especially if you're running this remotely. So make sure to include some warm-up exercises as part of your workshops, things that are going to help your team get drawing and get more comfortable sketching. We want everyone to feel prepared and ready and make the most of these sessions. The last step is opening design spaces. And really, this is the most difficult one for designers because it requires trust and vulnerability. And this is the last wall to break down. We are really nearly there. What we're doing now is we are sharing ownership of design and all relationships with users, with everyone else in the team. As designers, we can be used to only sharing polished, beautiful, finished designs. And it's really going to take some work for us to unlearn all of that and be comfortable sharing the messy parts too, embracing the mess, right? If, as a designer, you're feeling maybe like a little bit nervous at this stage, maybe you could start by sharing view access only as you build up these new ways of working. But always remember that the goal here is to share everything, right? We're sharing that ownership, edit permissions included. And lastly, designing as we code and coding as we design. Blurring those lines and truly working in a collaborative way. As we are prototyping an idea on our design document together, so everyone is there prototyping, we are coding at the same time and checking what is visible as we go. And this really helps us massively reduce the time from design to implementation. Now, I would really like you to take 10 seconds to just imagine your team doing all these things. Imagine your team truly embracing collaboration. Can you picture it? How does it feel? Yeah, you can see it. So for us, breaking up from handoff culture made us more efficient. We were able to save 50% of time from design to implementation. It also made us more user-centric. We now have 4 times more members of the team engaging with users firsthand, and we are really hoping to make it 100% soon. And finally, and this is the most important one, breaking off from handoff culture made us happier. And for this section, I wanted to introduce Sam. He's a member of my team. He's a developer / designer and my biggest ally in this whole journey alongside Jack and Joe.
Hi, Mina.
Hey, Sam, how are you?
Nice to see you. No, not a problem. Happy to be here.
I have been talking about collaboration here all on my own, and I think your perspective is so important, and I would really like to know, what would you tell other teams that might be hesitating, that might be earlier in the process, maybe like where we were a few months ago?
Yeah, no, not at all. So for me, what I learned when switching to being more involved with design was the biggest benefit to any product is empathy. It was the first point you touched on, is empathy with users. But for me, it goes further than that. We're empathizing with each other within the team. As you say, previously we were quite siloed. Design team was design team, developer team was developer team, and managers were on their separate level as well. So it's all about reducing that level of detachment from devs to user, and so we can better empathize with them. But it's also about how we can better empathize with designers. You're talking about the reduction of handover time, etc., and those are really important benefits. But for me, it all came down to, if I can empathize better with a user, I instantly feel more motivated to produce a better product, to produce something that is actually awesome for them. And as you say, by being motivated to do something and being able to empathize with our end users, we just feel happier. We feel happier producing something. It's too easy when handing off designs to developers for the developers to miss those key nuances that really help define like those key pain points for users or their key success factors. But But by collaborating and working together right from start to finish, you really hit all those points and you really consider them as you're implementing as well. As I say, it all comes back to being able to empathize, makes you feel more motivated, makes you feel more happy.
Absolutely, and opening those design spaces, right? Feeling vulnerable and open to, sharing your designs early in the process, being open to feedback, and being open for things to go wrong maybe at the beginning, and for things to be a little bit messy. We tried different things. Some things work. Sometimes some things didn't quite work. Maybe what didn't work for us might work for other teams. But I think if you bring it back to empathy, like you were saying, Sam, with our users, but also within the team, regardless of the skill set or regardless of what role everyone has, I think we can build better things together.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Sam. And we hope this little talk has inspired you to break off from handoff culture and starting to build something better together. Thank you so much for coming. And before you go, I would really like to know about your team's journey and how you're getting on. Feel free to leave that on the chat, but also, if you want to reach out or have any questions, you can reach out to me on Twitter or via email. If you have any questions for Sam, I can pass them on. Anyone else in the team, I can absolutely do that. And if you go on the Figma link there, you'll find all the slides as well as some extra resources that you can use with your teams. We've spoken about those brainstorming sessions, like those testing sessions. There's a lot of really good stuff in there. And if there's anything that has helped your team in the past, maybe, please let me know so I can add it to the file and we can build this together and make it something that will grow with time. And yeah, thanks again, everyone. Embrace collaboration and enjoy the rest of Config.